This is a special interview airing live on Hot FM, Kwitu FM, Capital FM, Mingotainment, including Hot TV on Facebook. I am your host, Gary Masana. Other radio stations across the country where we are broadcasting is Mchinga Radio, Liberty Radio in Borokoso. We also have Serenja Radio, Tuta FM in Mansa, we have Mano FM in Kasama, iWave in Chingola. We also have a few free in Chipata. We have Choma, Mano, Lotom. We also have Zambezi FM, Voice of Kalomo as well. And Mafken Radio is also a part of this broadcast. Not forgetting Diamond TV as well. Now, this is a special interview, and we are here at the residence of Upnd President Hakainde Hichilema. There has been a firestorm brewing in Zambia over the past few days regarding the role that Mr. Hichilema allegedly played during the privatization process in Zambia and the role that he played. The intense debate has followed accusations by FDD leader, Ms. who at the time of privatization was finance minister, that Mr. Hichilema acted in propriety and amassed personal benefits from that process. Well, what has happened since is that Mr. Hichilema has instructed his lawyers to issue a demand notice of Ms. Nawakwi to apologize, retract, and pay a conservative sum of $3 million in compensation. Now, as at midday yesterday, Ms. Nawakwi refused to apologize, and the 24-hour period in which to do so has elapsed. It elapsed yesterday at 17 hours. That's Thursday, September 3rd, 2020. Now, we have designed this interview to offer an opportunity to Mr. Hichilema to provide answers to the many questions surrounding this issue, knowing fully that the matter is not yet before court. I think we need to stress that, very important. Now, with that background, allow me to welcome Mr. Hichilema to this interview, and at the same time, we thank him for welcoming us to his beautiful home, because we're at his residence. Mr. Hichilema, good morning, sir.
Gary, good morning. Thank you very much. Good morning, listeners, viewers, wherever you may be. We're very pleased to host you today. Welcome, everyone. Thank you.
Great. So we're here today mainly because this time last week, you had phoned in on a live hot seat program to challenge what you termed as lies peddled by Ms. Nawakwi over your role in the privatization process. She alleged that you made your money through privatization. So the question would be, did you make your money through privatization?
Well, Gary, it's very important that we clarify at some point who was responsible for the privatization program. I hope we will cover that. But to allege that I made money, whatever the definition of money is in the privatization program, because of the privatization program only, is far from the truth. Because even as you will see from this conversation, I started business at a very early age, 26 years old, and at the time the program came through, even before the program came through, I was able to buy a property, just as an example, a property in the name of Several Road at 61 million kwacha in 1995, before I was involved in any transaction of any kind. So we already had resources, and we thank God for that, to be able to do that. So it's not true that we made our money through the privatization. We're business people, we started business earlier, so that was just a progression.
You mentioned the house, and I know it's one of the issues that Ms. Nawakwi did raise, and we'll touch on that shortly. But I know that your role in the privatization process always pops up, and it is usually around this time as we get into the election year. You tell us now, you as Hakainde Hichilema, did you participate in the privatization process? Were you in charge of this process?
The answer is that I participated in the privatization program. I was not in charge of the privatization program. Who was in charge? It was the government of the day. Which was the government of the day? The MMD government. They were responsible for the privatization program. Police, in terms of policy, they were responsible. They set the privatization policy, not myself, because I was not part of government. Legally, they were responsible because they set up the Privatization Act of 1992 as a government of the NMD under the late Chiluba, President Chiluba, may he so rest in peace. So they were responsible. And the overall structure, I think today is a day for us to explain these things so that those who may be unaware can understand. Those who may be mischievous, their mischief can be laid bare today. The MMD government took office 1991, 1992, they enacted the Privatization Act, legal position, which means Parliament of that time made a decision and gave the citizens of this country the law, Privatization Act. Then, the structure, the way they worked, was that there was, obviously after the law was made, there was the cabinet on top, chaired by the president of the time, Mr. Chiluba. Under the cabinet there was a committee of ministers within cabinet that were called Committee of Ministers on Privatization. HH was not there. Then there was a privatization agency, ZPA. Okay. As an institution, as a manager to implement the privatization program, it was there. That is where the policy and legal power basically lay. I hope we get that very clear. So, the decider was the cabinet, chaired by the president, and then the subcommittee of cabinet inside there, and the Ministry of Finance, Commerce, as it were, Mines or Tourism, depending on the asset, were key. Then the manager was the privatization agency. The privatization agents then would ask for expert advice from many, many people. Thousands of Zambians, not just Zambian lawyers, Zambian corporate finance guys like ourselves, not just ourselves, real estate agents, they asked, valuers, I'm talking of property valuers, engineering firms, all of them from 1991, 1992 along were somehow involved, many of them. And 270 companies were sold, or units as it were. And today, HH was responsible. HH sat below the privatization agency, asked to do his professional work, like an asset verification. So the answer is yes, in terms of involvement at that level, as I've explained, no in terms of responsibility, in terms of power, in terms of legal power, in terms of police power. I was not responsible.
So you were not in charge?
I was not in charge. Thank you very much.
Okay, now let's zero in on the three key issues that Madam Nawakwi raised, because and I know this is what has brought up all this talk over the past week. In it, the Sebo Road property, the Ramco sale, and then there's the Mosio Tunia International Hotel that's in Livingstone. Let's go through each one of these items. Let's start with the Sebo Road property. When did you acquire that property?
Well, first I think, Gary, it's fair to say that Madam Nawakwi on Hot FM alleged that I stole a house from Lima Bank. And she mentioned the house, the Kablonga Road, the Sebo Road house in Kwesi, that I stole the house from Lima Bank. I abused my role in the privatization program, got that house from Lima Bank, dubiously. She actually called me a crook. I'm not crook. So that's the first issue. So that house never belonged to Lima Bank, as she alleged.
So you did not buy the house from Lima Bank?
I bought the house, but not from Lima Bank. You can lead me on this one, or I can illustrate.
Is a proof, is there documents to show that you did not acquire this property from Lima Bank?
There is, yes.
Okay, would you care to show us?
Absolutely. Gary, you're coming on very well. I think that will help the viewers. Madam Nawakwi made this allegation clear, unambiguous. I responded on your program that I never bought the house from Lima Bank, I never stole the house, I don't steal. Here are the facts about the property. This property is called Farm 488A stroke 14 stroke A stroke 3, Several Road. That's the name of the property. That's the identity, legal identity of property. Property have legal identities, right? So, I bought this house from a company called TBZ, National Tobacco Company. So, this house basically was advertised, open tender, public open tender, through the newspaper. In 1995, Madam Nawakwi says, I stole the house from Lima Bank because in her allegation, I was involved in the privatization of Lima Bank. Which year? 1998. But I bought this house through a public tender in 1995. The timeline there does not match. Someone is lying. Is it me or is her? It is her who is lying. I say, Edith Nawakwi, you lied. I never bought the house from Lima Bank in 1998 or thereafter, but 1995. So let me just run you very quickly the timeline through the document. So there is a summary of the evidence of the house having been bought from TBZ, National Tobacco Company, and not from Lima Bank. Very, very quickly. So I responded to a newspaper advert in April 1995, right? Very important. And then after I responded, in fact, the newspaper was in May, advert, I responded within May 1995, and I was awarded a tender. I was the highest bidder, at 61 million kwacha. That's the point I made earlier on. Not involved in the privatization. I already, as a business person, was able to tender for this house at 61 million kwacha. Answers your earlier question. Did I make money from privatization? I was already able to buy. God was kind enough to us through our business from the time we were 26. I was able to buy this house. So now, who advertised the house? A firm in Ndola called TP Chiwe. It's all here. I think I gave you copies of the document. TP Chiwe, you do have a copy? Yes. Very good. TP Chiwe and Company of Ndola, who were valuation surveyors and state agents who had been engaged to sell the property. For the avoidance of doubt, I myself just made an offer. The advert had many other houses. I singled this one and made an offer. To be specific, my offer went in on 26th of April, 1995. The records are here. Then evaluation was done. How they did it, I don't know. That was not my job. I was offered the house. So who owned the house from day one? Who owned the house? Let's go through very briefly. The records are there. Here is a record from Lands, Ministry of Lands. That's a record that shows who owns the property if it's on title in this country. And you can see the stamp. Gary, this statement was obtained on 8 December 2011 because questions around this house started a long time ago. That's what many people are not aware. So, Mr. Chileshe was the owner of the house and he sold it to the Tobacco Board of Zambia in July 1997. July 1997. Then, Tobacco Board of Zambia went along their entries here, got a mortgage from Zambia National Building Society for 15,000 kwacha on 6 October 1971. Right? The mortgage was entered in the property. Then, in December 1989, the Tobacco Board of Zambia changed its name to National Tobacco Company. You can follow what I'm saying here. And all these entries are there. They're not my entries, they're entries from the Ministry of Lands, which is a government department. Then National Tobacco Company borrowed money from Finance Bank in December, basically 1990. They borrowed money from Finance Bank. From this document I've given you, Gary, which explained how the Finance Bank then was not paid, and they moved in to repossess the house according to the security that was offered. And when they repossessed the house, they passed it on to TP Chiwe of Ndola to advertise for sale. That's when I responded. After that, I won the bid, as I said, 61 million kwacha, no income from that privatization, from my other business. As a partner, as a shareholder of a couple of businesses at an early age. No privatization at that time. I was already a shareholder. Then, after I bought the house, I paid through the real estate agent, through my lawyer, one Michael Msonga, who is Deputy Chief Justice, and he's still alive, Michael Msonga. Then they went and paid off the mortgage, and the mortgage was cleared as the debt shows here. Very, very clear, right? Mortgage plus interest was at 10 million kwacha, is at 27 September 1990. And the money I paid them, they went and cleared the mortgage. Then they were able now, on 7 July 1995, they discharged the mortgage. That's it. That's a month. Then the house was offered to me by the National Tobacco Company through the real estate agent, and I bought it and registered an assignment, a document called an assignment, which is used to change ownership on 7 July 1995, Gary, and then I became the owner of the house. 14/3A, in short we call it Several Road, Kablonga, was never ever a Lima Bank house. Lima Bank came up for privatization in 1998. I bought the house in 1995. Edith Nawakwi, you are a liar. Thank you.
That clears one of the particulars of defamatory statements that you have raised.
Yeah.
So
but Gary, she has a chance in court to prove whether she has a different record from this.
Okay.
She has a chance in court. That's why we've gone to court, so we can stop shouting at each other. Thank you.
All right. Now, I want us to move to the second item, which is Ramcos.
Yes.
What role did, you can allow me to call you HH?
Yes.
What role did HH
with pleasure.
play in that transaction? Whether remotely or closely, because she raised this amongst
First, there's this allegation that this young guy called HH was responsible for privatizing mines, and that he alone had the power. I think I've explained that I didn't have the power as a service provider, contracted and many times appointed through public tender, either as an individual or as a firm, and of course agreed fees. I got paid. That's my job. That's my business. I got paid. So I think today I must put it clear that that is a different issue. So there is an allegation that I privatized a mine called Ramcos. I never privatized any mine in this country. I've made this position very clear. So Ramcos was privatized around 1997. Gary, I was not involved. The records are there at the ZPA, at the Zambia Development Agency today. Very clear records. You will not find HH's name there.
But you were part of privatization at that point.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. I've articulated that in terms of whatever work I was asked to do. And so I think I explained that how the structure was and how the experts came in. So, but I was not involved in the privatization of any mine, because this is a mine we're talking about. So it was sold by the government again, the MMD government, through the structure I gave you, committee of cabinet on top there, ZPA. In this case, there was a special team that handled that. I was not involved.
Why do you think she mentions HH?
Malice.
In all of this.
Malice.
In particular with Ramcos, because you cleared obviously the first issue of the house. Yes. Now this. Why do you think she mentions HH?
She's confusing things. She's claiming that I was the receiver. As you can see in our demand letter, which I want to waive here, right? Item 5.3 of our demand letter, we are saying, Madam Nawakwi alleged that I had an improper and illegal conduct in the receivership of Ramcos, privatization and receivership of Ramcos, in her insinuation that this young guy called HH had the power to privatize mines, all assets. It is wrong. It is actually malicious, completely malicious. And again, she will have the time to prove herself in court. That's the only place you go to if you're arguing. Let me return to the issue. The issue is that neither did I privatize Ramcos, Gary, or was I a receiver of Ramcos. I was none. Don't forget that in her program at Hot FM, she alleged that I stole $10 million from Ramcos. How I stole it, I don't know. She will prove that in court. We are going to see in her allegation how I stole $10 million from Ramcos. I didn't steal any money. I'm not a thief, Gary. I have never stolen anything. I want her to prove that. So I alleged to her that she alleged that I did all these things with Ramcos. I didn't. The only issue she may have been referring to was that Ramcos was privatized in 1997. 2000 or thereabout, after they had borrowed money as a private company, basically borrowed money from Zanaco. After privatization, they borrowed money from Zanaco, a bank, a state bank, and they failed to pay. And Zanaco appointed a receiver to recover the money that they were owed by Ramcos. Ramcos then was a private company. Completely, she's misleading herself and the public. And I'm shocked that a minister of finance, former minister of finance, can fail to understand basic facts. It boggles one's mind. You can only prove one thing, that malice, political malice, get HH at all costs, even if it's not a criminal.
You think she's just being malicious?
Completely malicious, because the facts are there. How do I know the facts are there? When you are appointed receiver under the insolvency law in this country, you have to register your receivership deed at PACRA. At that time, it was called Companies Registry. It's now called PACRA. You also go to court and register that receivership deed. And by the way, you are appointed as a receiver as an individual. The law is very clear. There is nothing of HH there. So I can invite Zambians who may be doubting what has been going on to say, go to Companies Registry then, go to PACRA, go to courts and see the receivership deed, who was appointed receiver, to recover, only to recover the money for Zanaco, not to privatize Ramcos, because it was already privatized 3, 4, 5 years earlier. So facts are there. I don't want to mislead anyone, Gary. You, as whatever, as an individual, like I talked about this land issue, you can go to lands to get this print out. If it's manipulated, the records are manipulated, there's a parent file there. As is the case on Ramcos, you can go and get these records. You don't need Hakainde to get them for you. Just go to PACRA, go to this way, to court. You'll see if there was a filing of a recovery. I think my colleagues who did the receivership did a good job, in the sense that they recovered the money for Zanaco, which was very difficult to recover. The rest is detail for court. We'll see what she says in court.
Now, if you're joining us now, this is a special interview. We're at the residence of Upnd President Hakainde Hichilema, and we're basically talking about issues that have happened in the last few days. And we're just going step by step, breaking down some particulars of what terms as defamatory statements.
Absolutely.
And he's trying to clear that. So we're moving step by step. We touched on the Civil Road House and the sale of Ramcos.
Absolutely.
Now, the third of the issues that were raised by Madam Nawakwi is the Mosotumia Intercontinental. Yeah, the issue of your shares, that you sold your shares, the valuation and all that. I mean, just paint us a picture of what kind of facility this place is, and also what Madam Nawakwi concerns that she raised, or your role that you play.
Gary, in the privatization process, if there's an asset that delivered more than expectations, it was that project in Livingston. If there's one, if there are 3, 4, it's one of them. World-class asset, competitive product internationally, delivered meticulously in accordance to the objectives that were set in the privatization program. the policy of privatization, set agendas, set objectives, what needed to achieve. The law was there to allow it to happen. That asset was done to the best. If I was not Hakainde Hichilema, and I was not seeking public office, if I was not born in a particular area, I would be praised every day about the way that transaction was handled. That's the first thing I wanted to say. Right? Completely first class. In accordance to the set objectives of the privatization program, the broader program. There's an allegation that I was a shareholder. When the bids came through, they never came to me.
When was
They
this?
went to the ZPA.
Is it true that the bid was in 1997?
Hang on. The bids under the program were received by ZPA. I've already articulated what ZPA was, the manager of the program, right? And the ZPA receives the bids and then decides who they think can help them to structure a transaction in accordance to the set objectives. That time ZPA would call people like ourselves. Not just me, there were other people called. I was not alone there. Now you can see the way things are happening, like, is this troublesome chap called HH? Is this chap seeking presidency? He's not allowed to be a president of this country. He must just sit. He must just be a citizen of Zambia. He must not talk. He must say nothing. I aspire to be president legally. So the bids went to ZPA, and the insinuation is that I then was a shareholder of Sun International, and when I was appointed to assist put this transaction together, I had a vested interest in Sun International, therefore awarded the assets to Sun International. The material question, did I have a shareholding in Sun to be able to declare conflict of interest when I was asked to assist by the MMD government through the cabinet and the ZPA? The answer is no. I was never a shareholder. Again, it is easy. I decided on this one, Gary, that I will not fiddle with paperwork. I invite any citizen to go to the company's registry then, to go to PACRA now, and see if HH was a shareholder. Because that's what Nawakwi, Madam Nawakwi, alleged, that I was a shareholder and therefore gave myself Sun International. She is wrong. I was not a shareholder.
Did you at any point buy any of the assets that you undertook to evaluation?
You're moving away from Sun now?
No, because I'm trying to...
All right. I hear you.
Yeah.
I just want to answer the question properly.
Yes.
I never.
Okay.
There is no asset that, in the context of the privatization program, that I bought from ZPA or from the government of the MMD. Never. The records are there. There was no asset that I bought from ZPA. The assets I have, like this house in Several, I bought from owners who were not government, who were not ZPA, who were not Ministry of Finance. Unlike some of the people alleging these things, who actually bought assets from the privatization, directly from government, I never bought any. I bought from private, entities. And so I never bought an asset from Musochine. That time, along the way, up to now, zero.
Never.
Malos will say, noto, zero. It's not there. So, if it is there, I challenge anybody out there to go out and bring the records. Not there.
I mean, there's an issue that has arisen from a statement that you made during an interview with an industry colleague, Shosta, where you imply that MMD ministers were sleeping for them to allow a young man at time to sell state assets. In what context was that statement?
Gary, I'm very grateful you've asked that question. Here's the context. My answer was a contextual answer. Because there's been a persistence over years, not just over the last 1 week or so. Let me just put it clear. from 2007, there's been persistence that this boy, this young guy called HH, was responsible for the privatization program. I've already answered no, and I've answered several times that I wasn't, right? So this question comes on and on. You will see a number of tapes now. In 2014, 2015, I had an interview with movie television customers, right? He asked me the same question. 2014, I explained that the program was an MMD program. I was not in charge of it. I was an expert. I gave an example of the work I was doing. But this thing keeps on coming. And my nature, God, is that I am not litigious. I don't like noises. And in this country, there's a perception that those who make noise are clever. Those who make noise are right. In both cases, it is not true that noisemakers are the most intelligent. And we have made a mistake in our country to reward noisemakers. We must reward substance, facts, diligence, hard work. That's what we are. Over the years, from a young age. So, I have never wanted to reach this level. I just used to explain and explain, guys. But it seems this matter keeps on coming. And then, on this interview, the same question was asked. I said, but I was not the one with the power. The power of public assets are held by and large by the Minister of Finance on behalf of the government, on behalf of the citizens of Zambia. So I said, if people keep on saying that I saw the mines, I was responsible for privatization, I made all these decisions when they were made by cabinet, and the committee of cabinet, reporting to cabinet, and obviously the agents, privatization agents. How is it that people persist to say that? Malice. So I said, look, where were you when I was selling these assets? Because I had no power.
Basically, you're saying HH was smart.
Well,
to have managed to do it at that tender age.
They're interpreting. Exactly. You've got it now. You've got it. They're interpreting it that this young chap had the power to sell an asset he didn't own. So how is it possible that I could then just overrule, just undo cabinet, committee of cabinet, ZPA, undo parliament? Because remember, all these things will end up in parliament. And there have been many parliamentary reports, by the way, and reviews. How is it that this HH, this mysterious HH, has mystical powers to be able to sell these assets, and those who are the legal right and the legal and moral responsibility were watching? Hence the context. That where were you? Were you sleeping? Because you can't keep on accusing me, an innocent guy, that I saw all this. So it was contextual. And I insist that really there's no way this subject must continue going like this. Today we must settle it. But obviously, I have an issue with Madam Nawakwi. We'll settle it in court.
Now, some people feel that you stirred up this whole issue yourself when you dropped the names of Madam Nawakwi. You also mentioned Mr. Chikwanda. Why did you do that?
I didn't steer any name. It was not the intention of picking out Madam Nawakwi. Edith is venomous. The way she speaks, the arrogance she exhibits, not with me only, with literally everybody who she thinks is standing in her way. I don't know why she thinks I'm standing in her way. So there was no issue. It was an issue of mentioning cabinet. Was she not a member of cabinet during the material time? She was. Mr. Chikwanda, material time, he was the chief of staff at State House. Remember, cabinet decided following these levels, and the president sits in cabinet as chairman. Mr. Chiluba, may so rest in peace, and the advisors in State House, economic chief, they are all part of the process. They work for cabinet because they are in the presidency. That was the reference, not to single out an individual. for malice, as Madam Nawakwi is malicious by and large. That's her character. But God made her. We accept her as such. But I have a different character. I'm a different character. I'm also a creation of God. We coexist, right? So that is the issue in point now. I would have mentioned anyone else that it could have been this minister, mind you, as Hakainde. As Hakainde. I had and I continue to have great respect for a son of Zambia called Ronald Damson Siame Penza. Great respect for that man. We miss him. He was a wonderful Minister of Finance. After 1991, the economy had collapsed. Ronald did a lot, RDS we call it, to restructure, to try and realign this country. But unfortunately, we lost him. I could have mentioned him. I was a great admirer of Ronald Penza. I could have mentioned for him. I could have mentioned him. The fact that I didn't mention him didn't mean that there was a particular reason I mentioned Nawakwi. So, because she was a minister, and Minister of Finance, for that matter, I could have mentioned other ministers. It was just an example. And if I had more time, I would have mentioned others. But the principle remains that I was referring to people who had the legal right, who had the executive responsibility, because they were the party in office. As it were, let me extend this point, Gary. Later on, after the initial MMD cabinet and the transactions, sales that took place were up, later on, under the late Mwanawasa, there was a sale of Zanak. I could have mentioned that. Nothing sinister. They had the power. What happened under President Rupia Banda? MMD again, they sold Zamtel to Lapgreen. But one minister I would be happy to mention here, because she talked about me and because she was a cabinet minister, is Doris Lee. She was involved in the privatization of, if you like, Zamtel to Lapgreen. Okay. Clear. And my colleague, Mr. Lung, was in the transaction arrangements. I have a report for you here. In the sale of cold storage. It is here. I will show the media here. That he too was involved like me. But why talk about Hakainde all the time? Why not talk about other people who were involved? Many, including those who bought assets. Now, I could have also said under PF, sorry Gary, I'm not being overzealous, just to reinforce the point. Under the PF government, PF have privatized assets. Am I right? Yes, I'm right.
Which we can prove.
Receivership under the 1992 Privatization Act, the definition of privatization is a sale of an entity as shares, a sale of assets, privatization, commercialization, liquidation or receivership was part of the definition. The PF, under that definition, appointed a receiver in KCA, Konkola Copper Mines, called Miningolungu. That is what people are forgetting. The PF have been selling assets. They are in the process of selling Zafiko, which they almost arrested me for when I warned them about that. They have put Zafiko on public offering. That's part of the meaning of privatization. So why Hakainde every time Hakainde? Because it's malice, because it's politics. He shouldn't be president of something. Thank you. It's all malicious. It's all in here. Now, I've got the documents here.
Now, obviously, I mean, some people feel that we need a commission of inquiry on these matters, while others, including former Finance Minister, Dr. Katene Kalumba, who we had yesterday on Hot FM,
sure,
feels that it will be a waste of time, or rather, why involve investigative wings to take up this issue? In your thoughts, I mean, what do you think? What route are you comfortable with besides the court process?
It's really, Gary, not Hakainde's comfort. It's not Hakainde's comfort. It should never be narrowed down to Hakainde's comfort. it should be to do what is right. If it's justified, if it helps bring facts to the table, because facts is what we need, not innuendos, not Madam Nawakwi's venom, anger, insults. I've never insulted her, but she alleges so many things that if I start talking about the things she alleged at that Hot FM program, it will take 4 hours for me to respond to each item. You know, bullying me, alleging. It doesn't bother me. I understand what she's trying to do. She's roosting for PF. She's a surrogate of PF. I understand. But she belongs there. But she must have no issue with me as well. And honestly speaking, I have no issue. I don't mind. You know, she alleged that, I should have been president 10 years ago. She's been seeking the presidency of Zambia since 1989. Why has she not been president? Do I care? I don't care. But here's the issue. Is it valuable?
Yes. Should we
exactly
on this issue?
Exactly.
We deal with it in court.
Exactly.
Or
do we have the resources?
Yes.
What value is it going to add? Has it been done before? My answer, part of the answer to these questions, Gary, is that under the President Mwanawasa, late Mwanawasa, there was a thorough investigation of the privatization program. Very, very thorough. And it brought out issues. It brought out litigation. It brought out all sorts of things. The records are there. Do we want to do it again? If Zambians find value in doing it, let them go ahead and do it. But it should not take away certain things. I hope there's a question about what should we be paying attention to. But if I said on this program, don't do it, someone will say, oh, he's covering up something. I'm not covering anything. As I've demonstrated in today's press briefing, there's nothing hidden for me. Everything is transparent. So if there's a wish, let it be, but we must also look at what do we want to achieve. Do we want to continue being malicious? But do we want to convince somebody else? Did the Mwanawasa probe not help? After the Mwanawasa probe, Jonas Shakapuswa, as the Deputy Minister of Finance, was asked a question. Report to Parliament on the privatization. He reported. Clear, the reports are in Parliament. Parliamentary reports. I think under PF, maybe, I'm not very sure, but maybe under, Finance Minister Chikwanda, a similar probe, in a way, was done. Either Chikwanda or Madam Manakatwe, Margaret Manakatwe. It was done all under maybe Felix Mutati. I'm not too sure. The report is there in Parliament. What else do we want to do? But if Zambians want to do it, please yourself.
So should we do a commission of inquiry or proceed with the court process? What's the best?
I'm relaxed on that. My mind is that there are things that are pending, which are important to the welfare of the people of Zambia. But I should never stand in the way of anyone like Edith Nawakwi who wants to probe. That's why I'm giving her the opportunity to settle her wild and malicious allegations in court. Me, I've taken a position as an individual after 15 years of being maligned, and I was quiet. I've been very patient, guy. Very patient. I'm a patient guy. As a cattleman, a boy from the village, you have to learn to be patient. Don't be emotional about issues. Look at the facts. Don't draw hot air, right? Just look at the substance. So I have taken this decision, right? So, but the probe can be done. I have no issue. But if there's value to the nation and we don't digress ourselves from important issues in the country, let those who want it proceed with it. But it must be done holistically. If a probe comes, let it be done holistically. And you'll find that this document presented here will be so small because the people who may have bought assets directly from the privatization are many. And they have to answer questions. I have no questions to answer.
So now that you have gotten no response from Madam Nawakwi, the 24-hour period has elapsed and no apology has come to you. And she has actually even said that she does not apologize to criminals, saying that you are a criminal. In other words, what next?
First, I'm not a criminal. I have never had a criminal mind. What we do is on top of the table. from a very young age, from the village, going to school 3 years without shoes. Very clear, history is very clear. I'm not a criminal. That's the first point I want to say. And I'm not really unhappy about it because it's coming from an individual who harbors venom and a foul mouth, literally. So I forgive her for that. But I'll stay with the substance through the court process. I forgive her for that. I stay with the substance. Earlier you asked me a question, is tribunal is important or what? Remember, I've answered your question that the court will prove the issues.
Okay.
And in a civilized manner. So we don't have to insult each other. I will not insult her. We don't have to threaten each other. We don't have to be surrogates of the ruling party. As an opposition, you're supposed to be representing the masses that are not having service from the government. What service are we talking about? We need jobs. The youth roam the streets without jobs. Graduates who are from nursing college, teacher college, 50,000, 100,000 of them are roaming the streets without jobs. Our job, for me as HH, Upnd, is to focus on how can we create jobs for these people. How can we send our children to school who are not in school, including orphans, including how do we give business opportunity to our people? How do we revive the economy which has collapsed? How do we stop corruption? We will have zero tolerance to corruption. How do we restore the institutions of government? Financial Intelligence Center, they produced a report, corruption is reported, nothing's happening. So what Nawakwi and PF are trying to do is to divert us from those issues and now drive us to these issues of, a house in Sable Road. I mean, look, a house in Sable Road, is that a house that should occupy the media space, national agenda? Gary, just a little bit. Is that what is important? No. All she needed to do before she made this allegation is to go to lands. And she would have had this printer free of charge. Maybe at a small fee, 20 kwacha or 50 kwacha. And she would have not gone the way she's gone with the panel. So I am saying we have misplaced priorities in this country. You see, for me, we must not leave the subject of corruption on fire tenders, corruption on fertilizer. By the way, Gary, when we take office, God's will, courtesy of the people of Zambia, will save Zambians from the fertilizer import bill up to the quantum of $100 million. We've worked our numbers already.
I will give you a
Yes.
chance just before we wrap up our special interview here at your residence to share with us what you feel is best as we get into this election year. Now, I noticed that you keep marrying Madam Nawakwi with the PF. Do you feel by any that maybe they are working together? I don't understand why you keep thinking that.
Her actions.
Okay.
Her actions clearly demonstrate that she's a surrogate of PF. Her actions. Very clear. Her actions. Very, very clear. Parroting things that are not true. An opposition leader must add quality, must bring a competitive atmosphere into the political arena so that government money is not stolen from those in government. As it is on fire tenders. She should be talking about fire tenders together with some of us in opposition. Why is she not talking about that? She should be talking about the NRCs that are not being issued properly in the electoral process. She should be talking about why butane is not good for the country. On your program, she talked about her favor for butane. A genuine opposition leader does not favor butane as the church mother bodies don't. That is the surrogacy I'm talking about. That is the parroting for PF I'm talking about. She's actually, I really think she did a good job. Because Zambians now know that in that corner, there's no opposition. There's a surrogacy with the ruling party. So that's my answer to
what do you think that is doing for the opposition collectively? Because I know you worked as an alliance together with Madam Nawakwi years back. What do you think that
2006.
Yes. What do you think that is doing moving forward?
Yeah, I think first, Gary, to be very brief in that answer. That alliance really was consummated during the time of Mr. Mazoka, may so rest in peace, and Madam Nawakwi, President Tidienji. They did it before I came on, but Mr. Mazoka died, may so rest in peace. But even at that time, she was very obstructive. And on your program, she alleged a lot of things which I just ignored. One of the things she alleged was that when we were campaigning somewhere in another province, I sat in a room eating, and women were sitting outside eating buns. Me, I was eating decent food. I think that's what she meant. And the women were eating buns outside. And she came in to tell me, she was even trying to abuse the Tonga language. She said, Musa. I mean, what a fallacy. You can see the concoction of things that don't exist. The venom, the destructiveness was very clear at that stage. She never campaigned with me in 2006. So how was it that I was with her? When she refused to campaign with me, she campaigned with fear. With another party, you are in this alliance, you are campaigning for a party in another group. Are you an honest person? You are not. So in the opposition, you have a number of dishonest colleagues. She's one of them. In terms of the political consolidation of the opposition, I wouldn't touch her.
Going into this election, is being a part of an alliance something that you think you would try and do again?
I think, what is the alliance for? It is to consolidate a group of people that offer, group of parties, group of Zambians that offer an alternative to the failed PF leadership. The answer is yes to that. We should work together as political parties, as individuals, as churches. That is the way this country has always delivered, Kari. Towards independence, Zambians work together. They didn't point fingers. You are a Lozi, you are a Tumbuka, you are a Tonga, you are a Bemba. No, they worked together, delivered independence. 1991, we all worked together, Gary, never pointed a finger at each other. That was, all those were alliances, composition of citizens, common agenda. We delivered and removed the one-party state, replaced with a multi-party state. 2001, we all worked together to deny the left President Chiluba, Mr. Chiluba's third term, together. We did. 2021, we have to work together for a cause, for unity of purpose, to save this country from sinking, from dying, from destruction that we have as in debt, borrowing too much money, no jobs, no education, no medicines in the hospital, no nothing. We have to come together. So the answer is yes. In order to save the from total collapse and total destruction. The destruction is written all over. All over. People are hungry in homes, my brother. And that's what should be occupying our minds. Electoral Commission is handling certain processes wrongly. You can't remove citizens who will registered as voters under the existing law. Without a law, you remove them from the register and say this register doesn't matter. We'll bring about a new register. That's illegal. So the answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes, thank you.
You would get into an alliance.
Like-minded people.
Okay.
Like-minded people, Zambians who want to retrieve this country economically, socially, yes.
Now, I'd like to talk about government. They reacted obviously to the allegations raised by Madam Nawakwi through the chief government spokesperson, saying that government is disturbed by these allegations and they are studying the matter. What do you make?
First, Zambians should be surprised. Why would they be interested because Madam Nawakwi has raised the subject which has been raised over and over, as you can see from these papers? The same subject, right? 2007. This document was generated in 2007. MMD government then. Why are they concerned? Why are they concerned? Why? Because they have set up someone to allege so that they can pick it up like that. It's politics. That's why I have raised issues that this is not about the privatization, this is not about my house, this is not about Ramco, it's not about Sun International. It's about how do you stop Hakainde Hichilema, given the momentum that he has, given the Bari momentum. How do you stop him from ascending to saving the people? These are the schemes. That's why they're quick to say, have you ever heard, Gary, someone who says, we will see how the public opinion goes, then we'll decide what to do. How can anyone say that? You can see, I think Dora, in my view, understood what is right and what is wrong. So she had to put that statement that way, which clearly demonstrates that there's a problem here, because this matter has been with us for 15 years. So it's a political gimmick. It is to marginalize HH. Exactly. Is to create an opportunity here to arrest HH, trumped up charges again. Remember, PF have arrested me 15 times. 15 times. And none of these 15 times have I been found culpable. It is to put me in the cells, poison me in the cells, and then claim that we don't know how he died. That is what the agenda is.
Just on that, yes. You've alleged that the state wants to assassinate you. And to quote your own words, the truth is they want to have access to my physical body so that they can eliminate me. Their plan is to arrest and then kill me. Those are very strong allegations, HH.
Well,
why are you saying that?
Gary, you judge from the happenings. Why would you arrest a political competitor 15 times? Why would you tear gas HH every move he makes when I have a freedom of movement? Why would you, Sesheke, attack a citizen in the manner I was attacked to be killed in Sesheke like that? In Rwansha, in Kitwe at our secretariat, in Ndola at Sun FM radio, Gary, I had to go through the roof to survive. The PF thugs. The police couldn't stop them. So basically the police cannot touch them. Then, let's put aside. If you follow my colleague, Mr. Lungu, several times he has said that he will not allow HH to ascend to the presidency. He would put it in his word that I will not allow HH to enter State House. I will not want to see HH's name on the ballot paper. What is the meaning of that? Is to take him out. How do you take him out? Because you can't not threaten HH. He's a citizen entitled to leadership. For him, Mr. Lungu and his cohorts and his surrogates like Nawakwi, it is to stop this guy, create an opportunity to arrest him, finish him off in prison. That is what this is all about. Do I have to die for someone to remain in office? Because I'm a good competitor. A good one for that matter. Imagine if they were not abusing the Public Order Act. I can travel anyhow, I can campaign as they used to campaign as PF in opposition. There will be no competition. Mr. Lungu and his surrogates know that. So the ideas they are mooting is to stop this guy. Because Mr. Lungu has said it openly. One time he was in Soweto. He said it. We will never allow this Tonga. I don't know what has happened. What crime these bloody people, they call this and that. What have they done? What they are citizens. Why would you say that you will not allow, even in a very arrogant, by quoting them, I don't want to be sounding arrogant myself. Why would you stop this Tonga from being president? I'm not seeking presidency because I'm Tonga. I'm seeking presidency because I'm a citizen of Zambia. 1, 2, the law allows me to do that. 3, it's my personal decision. It's my right, my civil liberties, rights and freedoms allow me to aspire. Why does this tag always saying, we will not allow this one to be president? So why would you say that if you are in State House, the police are listening, the intelligence is listening? For some officer in intelligence, he may say, oh, this is a message from the president to eliminate HH. Because the president is the commander-in-chief. Why would he be saying? It is these things, Gary, that build up to make me believe. And the trumped-up charges I've talked about, where I'm arrested for treason. I never committed treason. I'm arrested for so many things. I've never done any of those things. And I have never been found wanting by the law. Why continue doing this? Is to eliminate HH. How best do you want to eliminate it? There's so many ways. One is put him under your control, then finish him off. Zambians must know out there, that's the scheme. All of this is not about the house. It's about eliminating HH from the ballot box, eliminating HH from the presidency. So now it's there. It's in black and white.
besides all of that, like in the political field, and that's what's going on. You mentioned ballot box. At the end of the day, it's about the electorate, and I think it's important for them to know who is the man that they want to put in office to preside over state resources. So who is this man?
Wow.
Who is HH?
Gary, first, I think as I answer your question, no one decides who becomes president. No one.
I thought the voter, me as an
No,
individual.
I'm coming. No one as an individual decides. Not Mr. Lungu, despite him thinking that because he's in that office, now he has the power to decide who becomes president, who doesn't. That's mischief, complete mischief. That is abuse of the power given to you by the people, the 17 million people of Zambia, citizens. They are the only ones who should decide. That's my answer. And it is them who should decide through a free and fair election. Starting with issuance of NRSs. Why are NRSs not being issued in some regions of Zambia? Delaying them. Kampiongo just, Minister of Home Affairs, Mr. Kampiongo just announced that there will be a delay in starting with other 5 provinces.
How would you describe that?
They should have started issuing NRSs because it's a constitutional right of any citizen to get an NRS when you're 16. So every citizen. So why choose 5 provinces now, other provinces later? Discrimination, abuse, disenfranchising people. Then you are delaying. Then you want to open the voter registration, Gary, in October for 1 month. This is September 4. Today is September 4. When are you going to issue NRSs in other provinces?
I think the time period is not enough.
No, that's not an issue. Because the law says NRSs must be issued to every citizen, wherever they are, whether they're in Western Province or Lusaka or Copperbelt, they must be issued. So why is this PF regime selecting only certain regions? Is to rig elections. That's the point I'm making. So we need a free and fair election. So we don't want a new register per se. The old register must continue. Then additional people must be registered. Then you have a consolidation, clean up the register based on the law that I'm a registered voter. Gary, you're a registered voter, I hope.
Yes, sir.
Why should you be removed from the register? Because you registered under the law. The idea to remove you by wiping out the current voter register is to manipulate the voter register to favor PF. We see you. Zambians see you. We will not allow it. HH is a citizen of Zambia. That was your question. Who is seeking public office, grew up in the village, worked very hard, very clear, as I've demonstrated. I was able to pay 61 million kwacha in April before I got involved in privatization. As people like to say, he made his money in the privatization. It's not true. Otherwise, where did I get this money? If they allege that I bought Sun, which I didn't, if I had bought Sun, it would have meant that I had money before the transaction. Common sense. One doesn't have to have gone to study rocket science. So I'm just a simple, humble citizen. A lot of things Gary has said about me. If the rains are late, it's HH. You want to do a transaction in Lower Zambezi National Park, it's HH who sold the national park. Let's ship that. How is it that HH can sell the Lower Zambezi National Park when he is not legally responsible? Lies and lies and lies. Political marginalization. That's what it is. So I'm just a guy who has worked for myself first, for my children, for the extended family, and God has been kind to us. I must admit. He's allowed us to have some success. But now is the time for us to use that experience, that discipline, that commitment to work, hard work, and more work, and translate that, zero tolerance to corruption, zero problem, translate that to managing the country's resources better. Rich country, citizens are poor because of bad leadership, no vision. Even the Bible says, where there's no vision, people perish. That's what you see in the PF now. And there's no qualms about it. So, so this is what we want to do for this country so that we can better the lives of the children who need to go to school. They must go to school. Those who need jobs, they must have jobs. Those who need businesses, they must have businesses. How can you have a country where land is going to foreigners and citizens have no land? You even start accusing citizens who are producing food for other citizens to eat. You accuse them of things that are horrible. There's something wrong in that mind frame, in that thinking. It's colossal, negativity. We must come out of it. HH wants to bring an open society, reunite the country, Gary, which is divided. The UPND cabinet table will have cabinet ministers from all the 10 provinces of Zambia, because they're all qualified. We want to bring back a professional civil service. We want to give job security to those in the public sector so that you're not removed on allegation of national interest. Whose national interest? Mr. Lungu's national interest and a few people. Nawakwi's national interest. Nawakwi and Mr. Lungu doesn't constitute national interest. So a police commissioner will have job security. They will operate independently. The head of the army, the head of all these organizations, FIC, DEC, the head of Auditor General, they will have job security. They will not have their FIC report delayed so that it can be doctored, so that you can remove names of the corrupt people in government, those who are buying fertilizer at a high cost, when we will be able to reduce the cost of fertilizer in this country by $100 million minimum. We've already worked out our numbers. That is what we want to bring to the government, to the people of Zambia. And that's a service that we want to bring, not to go and steal. The reason people think maybe HH stole from this privatization, because in their minds, they think that because they steal, everyone else steals. That's not true. We're different. Okay, so we want to bring service. That's who HH is.
To change all of that.
Absolutely. But we want to make sure that the country is reunited.
Okay.
Not polarization like this. Not using stories of privatization to marginalize, someone who can save this country together with others better, and then continue stealing from the people, continue denigrating the economy in this way, continue removing competent governor of a central bank and replace them with, arguably,
so you plan to change
all over.
Mr. Hichilema, sir, we'd love to thank you so much for welcoming us into your home and to share with us. You're obviously responding to the allegations made by FDD leader, Madam Edith Nawakwi, and of course, the plans that you have as we get into this election. Thank you so much.
Gary, I'm very grateful to you as an interviewer. I'm very, very grateful. Very difficult subject here to deal with. I think for some people, for me, it's a very easy and straightforward subject. Facts don't lie. So thank you for that to you. Thank you to Hot FM. Thank you to other radio stations in Lusaka, elsewhere in our country. You have a role. Under UPND, no one, and I mean no one, will shut a radio station. You self-regulate. No one will shut a television station. You self-regulate. You're a media, you are professionals. You should be fair, you should be balanced, but no one will shut you down because media freedom is enshrined in the Bill of Rights. So we promise you that. We commit that to you.
And we'll take your word for it.
Today, remember this conversation. Take my word. I don't say things to please anyone. I say things that are well thought through, that we believe in. And that's why we are consistent. From 2006, we've been very consistent. Maybe we have changed the examples, but the consistency is there because we are stable characters. We are accessible, not mutations, not amoeba, not camouflage. Simple, straight. The country deserves decent leadership now than ever before to reconstruct the economy and social value for our people. We will care for the people of Zambia, number one, and all the time, not care for ourselves. You see the colleagues in office, they get the plots more than anyone else. When citizens have no plots. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hichilema. I wish we could go on and go on. There's so much to talk about, but that's all the time we had. This was a special interview, airing live on Hot FM in Lusaka, Kwitu FM, Radio in Lusaka as well, Capital FM in Lusaka. Also on Diamond TV, live on Mingotainment as well, and on Hot TV on Facebook. On other radio stations as well, Mchinga Radio, Liberty Radio in Borokoso. We also had Serenity Radio, Tuta FM in Mansa, Mano FM in Kasama, Feel Free in Chipata. We had IOF in Chingola. We also had Radio Mano in Choma, Zambezi FM, Voice of Kalomo, Mafken Radio as well was live.
Wonderful.
So this has been Gary Masano. Thank you so much for being a part of this interview. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Gary. Edith, you're welcome. Thank you. God bless.